Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, as I've supported men in their love and work lives for 15 years now, many men ask for the right words to say to be more successful, attractive, and desirable. But I found it's not so simple as giving scripts or lines because every man is different. So giving words or scripts would be like giving a tall, thin man a shorter, wider man's pants, or vice versa. The words have to make sense for you and your personality, and there's so much happening beneath the surface that people are responding to. If you're interested in how to become a better lover and leader in your own unique way, go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz, or you can text ALIVE to 44144. It only takes a couple minutes and you'll start to get an idea of how you can be both more respected and desired. After you fill it out, we can schedule a time to review your quiz and talk about your specific challenges and desires. So again, go to either shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text ALIVE to 44144. That's ALIVE to 44144. Enjoy this episode of Man Alive. Hello and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I am excited to be here today to bring you a man's perspective on how to keep a long-term marriage or long-term relationship, to keep the spark alive, to keep the sex alive, to keep the connection alive. And I'm excited to be here with Sanjay Ladd, who has been married for almost 25 years. And Sanjay is the co-founder and director of Mr. and Mrs. Toy, which is a premium brand pleasure product manufacturer. And their first offering, the patented O Wand, is this cordless, rechargeable, waterproof wand vibrator that's received great reviews. And having spent 15 years in the IT industry, Sanjay started with Gordon Goodall. They decided to start this business together that could be, done online and sell really quality products to the market. So part of what I feel excited about is, Sanjay, that you are here, that you're here on a personal level, as well as it's so personal that you actually ended up creating a business out of this, to help other people keep their sex lives alive. So thank you so much for being willing to be here in your own, talk about your own life and for helping everyone else by creating these products.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me on your show anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Far away. What questions would you like to know?
So I think what I want to start with is, you've been married for, you said, almost 25 years. You have 2 kids. So you've gone through the gamut of the phases, right, of relationship. And I'm curious if you could just say a little bit about that. What phases have you gone through, and what's that been like in your relationship?
It's okay. So like you said, been married nearly 25 years. You've got that phase when you first meet, really excited, you're just constantly going out, and I don't know,
keep your hands off each other. It's like
I think I would say the first phase is lust. That's how I would put it down to. That's the easiest part, and you just really, when I look back now into our relationship, you can break it down into different segments. And the first phase, it's just definitely for us was lust, and you just enjoying your time together. You've got no commitments, no children
to take care of.
No, you're just enjoying life to the max. No real responsibilities, just having fun.
And when did that shift for you to the next phase?
Right, so unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but for me, my wife was ready to have kids straight away, but I wasn't. I was enjoying the fun and no responsibility. And I said, Luna, as a couple, it's nice to just have fun. And we did loads of holidays, overseas, long haul holidays, and 7 years was the time we waited. So 7 years later, then we had our first child.
And was
So
the first 7 years, was that all still kind of honeymoon phase, or did the chemistry shift throughout there even before you had a kid?
no, I would say for the first until we had kids, I think we was in a honeymoon period for
Wow,
7 years.
that's amazing. That's a long honeymoon phase.
Okay, right. I don't know, but yeah, that we were going holidays here, there, and everywhere. I mean, and just really enjoying life to the max.
Yeah, yeah. And then when
So
your son came, what happened or what shifted?
so yeah, son was born in 2004, our eldest son, and to be honest with you, from my perspective, no one can prepare you for it. No one.
Yeah.
You hear
Agree.
you hear all these different stories,
Yep.
and you hear advice, which is great. But when it actually comes to it, I even said to my wife, if I had known it was this difficult, I
Mm-hmm.
would have been put off having kids.
Yep.
That's I wouldn't have. The thing with us was our first son, unfortunately, was quite a sick baby.
Oh,
He wasn't really well,
yeah.
and so he suffered from what do you call it? He I can't remember the name of it, but in the evening he would always just start coughing.
Colic or like,
Colic,
yeah.
colic. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it was like bang on 6 o'clock it would start, and it would just
Oh,
cry, and yeah. And we never the problem. I tell you, the biggest problem we had is we never got a proper sleep,
yeah.
and our sleep deprivation lasted for 7 years.
Oh my God.
Sorry, not 7 years. Not yeah, no, it was. It's 7 years it lasted, because even when our second son came along,
Yeah.
we still had the same problem.
Wow.
Yes,
How did
but
you navigate that together and not want to kill each other?
well, like I said, for the first at least a couple of years, it was an absolute nightmare. Yeah, it was a very tough part of our relationship.
Yeah.
But it was, again, it was all about working together and trying to work together to get through this difficult time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. The key for us was, this isn't going to last forever.
Yeah.
We will see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And what would you say, like between the two of you, what did it take to have this, your attention on a joint mission without feeling that hopelessness or despair? I mean, you said you both recognize it wasn't going to last forever, but I definitely see couples get stuck in that sense of, despair around, oh my God, this is how it is.
I think, well, for us, having taken a lot of different advice from different people, we came to the conclusion, because when it's your first one, everything's new. So
Yeah.
it's almost like you experiment with different things to see what works.
Yeah.
And for us, we just thought, right, you know what, to get a better night's sleep, we'll have him in our bed, and it worked. He
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to be attached to mum, and I don't blame him, because he wasn't very well, and in hospital he was just attached to his mother. So
Yeah.
the same thing happened at home, and everyone kept saying the opposite. You must put him in a
Get the
separate room.
kid,
You
yeah,
must
away. That's
must
what I
this, that,
find
and other.
really fascinating. I mean, right, the attachment people who are very clear that you have to have the kid close, or the other people who are very clear that you have to have the kid far away and not smell the mom. And it's
Yeah.
like it's so different for every child.
Oh, absolutely. So we said, you know what? We heard different people giving us different advice, and we just said, look, let's just do what's right for us and our
Yes.
family,
Yes.
and what works for us. The most important thing, I said, out of everyone telling us different things, is what is going to work for us, and what are
I
we going to
love that.
benefit.
Yeah.
And what we benefited is that we got better night's sleep,
Yeah.
and that was crucial.
Well,
So
and part of what I'm hearing you say too is, right, it's like you got to throw out the script or the societal expectation, or
yeah.
even sometimes what the experts say, and actually really come together, communicate, and figure out like what is actually working for us and our family.
Yeah, and that was the most important thing. And when we tell people that he's in our bed,
Yeah.
people look at you like, "What's the matter with you?"
Yeah.
And we just thought, well, we don't care. I said, at the end of the day, all three of us were having a good sleep, and to me, that was priceless.
Yeah.
So
And I found myself saying at times, like, when my kid was little, like, it was a toss up whether sex or sleep was more important. And sometimes I would definitely choose sleep over sex.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I would definitely choose sex over sleep, but having, that's from a man's point of view. But because you're just so tired, you honestly, I remember just sitting down and I'd just be zonked in seconds.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even think about sex. That'd be the last thing on your mind. So even if you wanted to, physically, you just couldn't. So it was.
Well, I'm curious
tough.
about, you know, as you kept your relationship going and you being an elder in a way of having almost 25 years of marriage, like what has it taken, you know, what are the main things it's taken to keep it connected, alive, and hot?
Yeah. Okay. So when, you know, while we're having children, you know, sex was it was sporadic, but what we consciously did is made time for it. That's the key. Because we realized, you know, in the honeymoon period, in that phase, it was like whenever that was never an issue. But now we were both very tired, and it was about how do we now keep that side of it alive, which was important to both of us, not just from a man's point of view.
So instead of needing it to be spontaneous, you actually, you know, scheduled it and put it in and made it a priority, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and that has worked for us right from our first child right to today's date.
Yeah, nice.
Because spontaneous when you got two kids at home just doesn't work.
No.
Very rare anyway, to be honest. That's a reality for me.
What would you say to a man who says like, yeah, but you know, I want it to be spontaneous, or you know, what do I do if I'm scheduling sex and I'm not in the mood? How do you actually handle that?
Get through that. Yeah, we've experienced plenty of times that we've scheduled in sex and then one of us are not in the mood, or one's not too well, or something's come up.
And do you just give up, or are there
no? So there's a key thing. What you must do to make it work is when one of you says, "I can't do something," we can't meet. You got to reschedule it, and we reschedule it there and then. So it's the attention then is going to happen tomorrow, maybe.
Got it.
You know, so you have to take that action. If you don't, I just believe you're going to lose that. What we learned as a couple after 7 years is that you get to learn about your partner's libido, and the same with mine. And you know, unless you're very lucky, your partner's got exactly the same libido as you, then you're laughing. But
which never happens.
Realistically, there's always a difference. And not only that, it changes in the month as well, because obviously the woman goes through her periods, and that time changes as well. So the key thing, like, you know, and I keep going on about it, the key thing is you've got to communicate really well.
Yeah.
And
can you break that down a little bit? Like, you know, how did you learn about your partner's libido? What are the communication? What are there certain conversations you had, certain styles?
We're very open about sex and talk about it, a taboo subject about it for us. So, you know, talking about your sex drive and my sex drive was just very natural. And
not like a taboo, I'm gonna not hide this, you know,
not
conversation.
At all. And that's the key. And like I keep saying, the key is the communication. If nothing's a taboo, and you shouldn't feel ashamed about anything, you know, your turn-ons and your turn-offs and whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, you should be open enough to talk about it to your partner, and same with the other way, because that's the only way you're going to learn about it.
I love this.
And that's the only way you're going to know what's going to work and what isn't going to work. And then you both, what we did is, because obviously the libido's different drives, we both came to a compromise and said, well, you know, I would love to have sex maybe 8 times a week, but that wasn't going to happen. So and she was like, well, no way. So we like came to a middle ground and think, okay, that works for us. Now, how can we make that happen? And action it? because that, you got the intent there, but you need to action that. So
Yeah.
the action is where you then go, can we make this work when we've got kids? Well, okay, let's start scheduling it, and then actually schedule it, but then follow through and do it.
Yeah.
So it's not about, let's schedule it, but then just forget about it. It's,
Right. Well, okay.
take an
So,
action.
and there are a couple of things I'm just hearing you say. One is that nothing is taboo, because I talk to a lot of men who, when they say, I haven't had great sex, or I haven't had oral sex, or I haven't had sex at all with my partner, and I say, okay, well, what conversations are you having about it? At times they say, we're not. And,
Okay.
so it can be very scary or challenging to have those conversations. So I'm curious what
We've had, I think the only thing we both don't gone down the route of is bondage. It's something that it's appealed to us. And
but anything else, like you've tried it, fair game.
We have no problems. Oral sex, sex when she's on her period, that's not a problem. And it's not a taboo. I know a lot of people, that is a huge taboo and think it's dirty. And you shouldn't, but it's completely the opposite in my eyes.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've expanded, or, the word dirty doesn't have a negative connotation, right? I mean, some
No.
people use the word dirty to be playful.
Yeah.
And so instead of taking things off the table or feeling the limitations of what we should or shouldn't talk about, like it's all fair game. Do you talk about what is pleasurable for you and what didn't go well or what you want more of after a sexual experience together?
Yeah, that all happened in the first phase of the 7 years, all of that. So in that period, we got to learn each other's bodies. We got to learn each other, what we liked, what we don't like. And so that's the key in that last period, is we learn everything about each other. So then obviously going forward and growing together, and then having children, we don't need to then discuss all that, because we already
That's so
know all that.
interesting. I mean, one,
We've learned
because
all
I
that.
think bodies change. So,
Yeah.
it's
My wife's going through menopause at the moment.
yeah, right. So it's surprising. I would imagine that there's still going to be some learning as you go. But I'm thinking about the men who didn't necessarily have that phase of, okay, now I got to know my wife's body, and now I really, that they didn't have that intimacy or that communication, and thinking about how, you can start at any time. It's not.
Yeah, it's not set in stone.
Yeah.
It's the key thing is, for any relationship, whether you're in a long-term marriage or whatever, you both got to be chatting about it openly, and not be afraid. The other thing we both realised, their health benefits part of it as well. So look, when we're looking at that side of sex, there's huge benefits in having orgasms. And I've done a lot of research into that area, and my wife would always say, the day we do have sex it's a huge pick me up for her. And she feels so great, and I've always said it's a massive stress reliever, and you just feel so much on a high. So there's so many other benefits from it. We just think, how can you not prioritize it in your relationship as an important element? It's like, well, you always make time to eat food every day without fail. So then why shouldn't you do the same with your sex life?
Like it's kind of like a foundation, like flossing your teeth and eating food, that having sex and connection and intimacy in that way.
It's
Really,
just as important, and
like a health.
it should be done. Yeah, exactly right. It is a health benefit as well.
Yeah. Well, okay. So one thing I imagine is that because you've been so openly able to talk about it, it's kept that part of your relationship alive and well. And, things that we can't talk about, they tend to shrivel or fade. And so what would you say, like, what has made it safe for you to trust your wife or for her to trust you, that you can hear what the other has to say?
Right from day one, when I met my wife, communication and trust was the most important element, and trust is very, very, very important element of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be 110% trust your partner, both way, each other. So once you've developed that strong bond,
Yeah.
um, for me personally anyway, you can talk about anything, good or
Anything.
bad, and
How did
overcome.
how did you develop that trust? Because I think there are people
I think
who,
that's very, very difficult to answer,
yeah.
because for me personally, it just happened. I just knew. See, when I met my wife, I just knew she was the right person for me.
Interesting.
End of story. Yeah, I don't really know her, but my gut feeling said she'd be my perfect wife.
Huh.
So there's sometimes, I don't know, I'm very much listen to my inner voice, because your gut tells you your answers.
Yeah.
And if you're in tune with your body, you can get a lot of answers. Where you've been in phases. I don't know if you've been in your life and where you've gone, my gut said this ain't right, but
Yeah.
actually you still gone through it and you thought, and I know that I should have listened to my gut.
Your
So
gut. I mean,
it's
that's a
that sort
really,
of thing.
it's simple, but I also find so many people have, a habit of overriding, right? Overriding that gut instinct, or not even actually being able to hear it because we're so caught either in our thoughts and logic or technology and, phones and screens. And it can be hard to get quiet enough to hear that gut response.
Yeah,
And my sense is, right, that when we do actually listen to the gut response and we don't shame or blame ourselves or make ourselves wrong, there is a sense of, oh, there's something I'm wanting here, or there's some way that I'm not satisfied. And if we can bring it to a partner in a way that's not shaming or blaming, but, hey, how can we collaborate here? How can we co-create something here? Then
yeah,
that can go a lot better.
that makes it much better. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll mention is that in our long-term relationship, we've experimented with toys.
Yeah.
So we thought, at first it was like, oh, what's this is going to be like? And I know I hear from other couples that I feel that introducing toys is the wrong thing to do, because they just think, oh, am I not satisfying that person? That's why they're bringing
Uh-huh.
the toy. Am I failing in something? That's why this is going down this path. But actually, it's none of that. It's all about just having fun and exploring it, and still keeping your sex life exciting. And when you bring in a new toy, and this is when I developed the O wand,
Yeah.
that just changes the perspective, and you think, oh wow, this is a new dimension to our relationship. And it's almost like, sort of like, brings the spark. Next time you have a scheduled sex session, you think, oh right, brilliant, I'll try this toy.
Well,
There's
that's
something.
another way, if someone's not really feeling it, to
Yeah,
actually say, okay, well, if you're not feeling it as much tonight, why don't I put some attention on you and use a toy, or,
yeah,
pleasure your body a little bit. And then let's see, maybe we'll both be in a more similar place.
exactly. And from a woman's point of view, they wouldn't take it personally and think, oh, why is he giving me a toy? Is he not happy
Mhm.
with something? So it's all
Yeah.
about
Well, again, it's all about the communication, right? And so if
communication.
you say, I'm really excited to bring this toy in because I think it could be playful, it could bring you more pleasure, right? Versus,
Yeah,
hey, without any of that context, it might be taken as maybe there's something wrong with me, or you're not satisfied. But then again, like you're saying, if you can actually openly discuss all of that, oh, I was afraid that, you brought the toy
yeah,
because you didn't want to have sex with me anymore. Oh, wow, that's so not true. Then you can actually stay
exactly.
connected. Yeah.
And the thing I would say, yeah, and I would definitely say, when people have affairs and then they say, well, yeah. And then when you get to nuts of it, why did they? And they say, well,
Yeah.
I stopped having sex with my partner. And you
Yeah.
go, well, if you would have communicated right from day one, there was a problem. And this was the problem. You wasn't happy with this, or she wasn't happy with that. And then you wouldn't have gone down that path of finding somebody else to have sex with or
Right.
whatever,
And
because you would have sorted that out. And
right.
sometimes it's just all it is a 5-minute conversation.
Yeah.
But you just can't be bothered to do, sometimes I find people just can't be bothered to talk about it, so
Or
it's
there's so
like,
much fear, right? There's so much fear. And if I find out that she or he is not satisfied with something I've done, then I'm going to take that personally, and I'm going to feel like a failure, and I'm going to, feel horrible about myself. So are we actually willing to hear from our partners and not make it this personal, affront, or that we've become a failure if something doesn't actually feel good?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, with society today and how it is, it's much more convenient and easier just to go and have an affair rather
Right.
than
And
actually
just
sit down
leave.
and discuss it.
Yeah.
Um, and the society has, in a way, it's made it the norm, to you to go and have an affair or get involved in orgies and whatever else. And it's like, a long time ago, it was like, oh my God, that's a taboo. But now it's just such a norm. It's like
Yeah.
no big deal. So,
Yeah. Can you
but
talk a little bit about why you created the specific toy you created, and maybe a little bit about some of the other toys that inspired you or that you've played with?
well, we fell into the sex toy business.
That's great. We fell
And
into the sex toy.
yeah, me and my business partner, we set out selling condoms, and then from there, it just led to toys, and then selling toy, and then from toys, we thought, right, the natural path was let's create our own. So that's how we ended up thinking, let's create our own product, and then
Yeah.
wouldn't that be just so great to do? So
And then what was
it's
the basis of what this specific toy that you created? Like why?
Well, we wanted something unique. We wanted something powerful, rechargeable, luxurious. I know one of the things in our feedback is women like good quality, luxurious products.
And this product
So
is specifically created for women.
yes, it
Okay.
is. We do have attachments for the guys,
Okay.
but the actual wand is designed for women. And
And can you say a little bit, like, what is it designed to do? Is it more of a sexual toy? Is it more of a sensual toy? Like,
yes, but you can use it as a pure body massager.
okay.
Well, you can use it as a pure body massager, or as a sex toy,
As a
designed for the
vibrator.
clitoris.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reviews and the feedback was, I mean, some people said they've never had any orgasms, and then this is my first time I've actually managed to achieve an orgasm, and it's like,
Wow.
wow,
That's
receiving
touching.
that sort of feedback
Yeah.
makes you feel good that you've
Yeah.
developed a really good product.
Amazing. Amazing.
So yeah, so that's how we ended up going into manufacturing and creating our own toys, which is really exciting, and we are planning to launch another couple of new products in the next few months, so that should be even more exciting.
Yeah.
And we just really want to produce something very good and quality for people to use and appreciate, and hopefully enhance their sex lives,
Yeah.
so make it exciting.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation. And I guess I'm curious, what would you want to leave men with around the subject of toys and taboo? And, what would you encourage men to do to keep their long-term relationships alive?
I think the biggest thing I would say to any man is start talking and listening to your partner. Really, in both of you engaging in sexual activity and making time for it. Whatever works for the pair of you, that's what you go with. For us, it's scheduling sex, and a lot of people have a busy schedule, and busy lives, it just seems to be a perfect way of doing it to make it happen. But you got to, from anyone's point of view, you've got to prioritize it, because if you don't, it will never happen. So you'll be in that rut going around the circles. So.
I love that. And then I just thought, okay, if someone wants to prioritize it, if you're a man listening and you want to prioritize it and you don't know how to have that conversation, right? Reach out to me, because those are the conversations that I support men with, where if you're not in a relationship like Sanjay, where from the beginning you've talked about this and it's been open and, you feel comfortable, right? We've got to get you to a place where you can actually openly bring your desires and have these conversations so that it's not such a taboo.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Keep an open mind and communicate.
Great. And how can they find the O-Wand?
You can go onto our website, www.owand.com.
Great. Okay. 20% discount, self-isolate, and it's o-wand.com. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and it gave you something to consider and explore in your life. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 to get a sense of how you can become a better lover and leader. You'll start to see how you can be both more respected and desired in your unique and genuine way. If you don't feel as confident or as excited about life or love as you'd like to be, this quiz is a really great starting point and will guide you toward a more passionate love life and a more inspiring and successful career. So again, text ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 or head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.